Captain stood on the bridge of the Twilight Seeker, watching the stars drift past through the view screen. His scaled fingers moved across the control panel with practiced ease. The survey mission had been routine for 3 months now, mapping unexplored systems in the Orion Spur. Nothing interesting had appeared on their scans, just empty space and dead rocks. "Captain, I'm detecting something unusual," his science officer called out. The young looked up from her station with confusion in her eyes. "There's a G-type star ahead with multiple planets. The readings are strange." A moved to her station and examined the data. His eyes widened. The third planet from the star showed impossible numbers. Oxygen made up a fifth of the atmosphere. Liquid water covered most of the surface. The biodiversity readings went far beyond normal levels. "Run the scan again," I ordered. "Those numbers can't be right." The science officer's fingers flew across her console. The new scan showed the same results. She looked at it with concern. "Captain, I'm also detecting electromagnetic signals, radio waves, satellite transmissions, nuclear signatures." I felt his blood run cold. An inhabited world this far out? That was impossible. The Galactic Council had mapped this region 50,000 years ago. Nothing intelligent had lived here. "Check the old survey records," he commanded. His crew worked in silence for several minutes. Then the science officer pulled up an ancient file. The screen showed a planet labeled as Sol 3. Below the image, red warning text flashed. "Class 7 quarantine warning," she read aloud. "Extreme hazard, do not approach." I had heard stories about planets where evolution had gone mad, where gravity crushed bones and predators hunted without mercy, where disease and disaster killed entire populations. Most species avoided them completely. "What lives there?" he asked quietly. The science officer searched the database. Her face went pale. "Humans, bipedal, mammalian, persistence predators. The records say their planet has extreme weather, active tectonics, and thousands of apex predators. Most species that evolved there went extinct." "And these humans survived," I said. It wasn't a question. "More than survived, Captain. I'm detecting active space stations, military satellites. They have nuclear weapons. They've achieved." I sat down in his command chair. His mind raced. The old records said humans were primitive. They had barely discovered fire when the last survey was done. Now they had satellites and nuclear technology. That kind of advancement should have taken hundreds of thousands of years. "How long since the last survey?" he asked. 50,000 years, Captain." "Impossible. No species advances that quickly." But the evidence was there on every screen. Radio signals carrying what must be communication. Heat signatures from cities. Space stations orbiting their planet. These humans had gone from primitive to spacefaring in the blink of an eye by galactic standards. "Deploy stealth drones," I ordered. "I want detailed scans, images, everything, but maintain maximum distance. If they really are from we can't let them know we're here." The drones launched silently from the Twilight Seeker. They moved toward the human planet on whispered drives that left no trace. I watched the feed as the drones entered the system. They passed massive gas giants, rocky inner planets, an asteroid belt that looked like it had been partially mined. The drones reached Earth and began their scan. The images that came back made A's crew gather around the screens in shocked silence. Cities covered the continents, millions of structures built from metal and glass. Roads connected everything in vast networks. Aircraft flew through the skies, ships crossed the oceans, and everywhere billions of humans moved with purpose and energy. "Look at their military installations," the science officer whispered. She zoomed in on what was clearly a weapons facility. "Those are nuclear missiles, hundreds of them, and these appear to be orbital defense platforms." "They're armed," I said. "They're ready for war." "Captain, there's more." The science officer pulled up new images. "They have a space station, multiple satellites, and these look like mining operations on their moon. They're already expanding beyond their planet." I made his decision. Send an emergency transmission to the Galactic Council. Priority 1, tell them we've found Earth. Tell them the humans have advanced technology. And tell them we need guidance immediately. The transmission burst out from the Twilight Seeker, traveling faster than light toward the Council headquarters. I knew what would happen when it arrived. Panic, fear, debate. The Council had kept peace in the galaxy for 1,000,000 years, but they had done it by containing threats before they could spread. And humans, by every measure in the database, were a threat. Across the galaxy, on a small planet called Earth, Commander Jake sat in the command center of International Space Command. He watched the screens showing spacecraft positions throughout the solar system. Everything looked normal. Routine patrols near Mars, supply runs to the moon base, science missions studying Jupiter's moons. "Commander, I'm picking up something odd," a technician said. Lisa looked at her console with a frown. "Brief gravitational distortion near Jupiter, could be equipment malfunction." Jake walked over to her station. "Show me." Lisa pulled up the data. A small blip had appeared and disappeared in less than a second. It didn't match any known spacecraft signature. "Probably just interference," Jake said. "But file a report anyway. If we see it again, we'll investigate." Lisa nodded and began typing her report. Jake returned to his station. He looked at the star field display on the wall. Humanity had dreamed of finding other intelligent life for centuries. They had built radio telescopes, sent probes into deep space, searched for any sign they weren't alone. But the universe had remained silent. Jake wondered sometimes if they were truly the only ones out there. It seemed impossible in a galaxy with billions of stars. But year after year, the searches found nothing. He didn't know that at that very moment, the Galactic Council was receiving news that would terrify hundreds of species. He didn't know that alien eyes were watching Earth from the shadows. He didn't know that humanity's existence had just become the most discussed topic in galactic history. At the Council headquarters, alarms blared. Representatives from 100 species rushed to the emergency chamber. They had received A's message. They had seen the images of Earth, and they had read the ancient warnings about and the creatures that survived there. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Species that had never agreed on anything suddenly found common ground in their fear. Some called for immediate quarantine. Others wanted military assessment. A few suggested watching and waiting. But they all agreed on one thing. Humanity was dangerous, and the galaxy needed to decide what to do about them before it was too late. The news spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Within hours, every major species had received the report. Earth had been found. The humans were no longer primitive. They had nuclear weapons and spacecraft. They were ready to leave their world. In the collective's capital, families began packing their belongings. Their peaceful civilization had built colonies near human space without knowing it. Now their government was ordering evacuation. Children asked their parents why they had to leave their homes. The parents had no good answers. They only knew that humans came from a world that killed most things that lived there. The Empire's War Council met in their fortress world. General stood before a holographic display showing Earth's location. His armored body was built for combat. His species had conquered 20 systems through superior military force. But the reports about humans made even him cautious. "Their planet should have killed them," one admiral said. "The gravity alone would crush most of our soldiers. The weather patterns show storms that could destroy cities. The tectonic activity causes earthquakes regularly. How did they survive?" Studied the data. They didn't just survive, they thrived. Look at their population numbers, 8 billion individuals. Most species never reach 1 billion on there. Another officer pulled up images of Earth's predators. Captain A's drones recorded thousands of species that hunt and kill. These humans evolved alongside creatures that could tear them apart. They had to become smarter, faster, more determined. "What concerns me," said slowly, "is their advancement speed. 50,000 years ago they had stone tools. Now they have nuclear weapons. They went from discovering flight to landing on their moon in 60 years. We took 3,000 years to do the same." The War Council fell silent. That kind of rapid progress suggested something terrifying. It meant humans could adapt, could innovate, could solve problems faster than any species they had ever faced. At the Galactic Council headquarters, historians were pulling up every piece of data about Earth. What they found made the situation worse. "Humans are persistent predators," one historian explained to the gathered representatives. "Most predators on their world ambush prey, quick strikes, fast kills, but humans hunted by chasing their prey for hours, sometimes days. They would track wounded animals until the prey collapsed from exhaustion." "That's insane," a representative from a prey species said. "What kind of predator wastes that much energy?" "One that never gives up," the historian replied. "Humans have exceptional endurance. They can run for hours without stopping. They can survive injuries that would kill most species. They heal faster. They adapt to new environments. They're forced them to become nearly unstoppable. Another historian brought up human history files. I've been studying their recorded conflicts. They've fought thousands of wars. They've developed weapons specifically to kill each other. Chemical weapons, biological weapons, nuclear bombs, and yet they keep reproducing, keep building, keep advancing. The council chamber grew quiet as representatives watched footage of human wars. They saw soldiers fighting in deserts, jungles, and frozen wastelands. They saw humans climbing mountains for sport, running marathons in extreme heat, diving to ocean depths that would crush most species. They do these things for recreation, a shocked representative whispered. They put themselves in danger by choice. One military analyst brought up a comparison chart. Most spacefaring species take between 5,000 and 20,000 years to progress from basic civilization to space travel. Humans did it in less than 10,000. They discovered nuclear power and within 2 decades had built thousands of weapons. They reached their moon within 30 years of achieving powered flight. What are we dealing with? An elder council member asked. A species that evolution designed to survive anything, the analyst replied. And now they have technology to match their physical advantages. On Earth, Jake was coordinating routine operations. His team monitored satellite feeds and spacecraft positions. Everything seemed normal, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. Lisa, have we had any more of those gravitational anomalies? He asked. Lisa checked her logs. 3 more in the past 6 hours, different locations, all brief, all near the outer planets. That's not equipment failure, Jake said. That's a pattern. What do you think it is? Lisa asked. Jake stared at the star map. I don't know, but I want all long-range sensors increased to maximum sensitivity. If something is out there, I want to know about it. Deep in a research facility on Earth, Dr. Helen Torres was working through complex equations. She had been studying faster-than-light travel for 5 years. Everyone said it was impossible. The math didn't work. The energy requirements were too high. But Helen had found something, a way to fold space using rotating gravitational fields. It would require enormous power, but it was theoretically possible. She checked her calculations again, then again. The math held up. She began writing her report. Within weeks, it would reach International Space Command. Within months, it would change everything. But Helen didn't know that the galaxy was already watching, already afraid of what humans might do once they could travel between stars. Back at the Twilight Seeker, Captain monitored the surveillance drones. He had been watching human activity for days now. What he saw both impressed and terrified him. The humans worked constantly. Their space stations never slept. Their factories ran around the clock. They had mining operations on their moon and were planning missions to Mars. They were hungry for expansion in a way most species had lost millions of years ago. But what disturbed them most was their cooperation. Humans came in different colors and sizes. They spoke hundreds of languages. They practiced different religions. By all logic, they should have been fighting among themselves. Most species did when they had that much diversity. Instead, humans worked together. They had built an international space program. They shared technology across borders. When disasters struck, they sent aid to each other. It didn't make sense. Captain, I've been analyzing their entertainment broadcasts, his science officer said. I think I understand them better now. Explain, I said. They tell stories about heroes, about sacrifice, about protecting the weak. Their fiction is filled with characters who give up everything to save others. They seem to value courage and compassion as much as strength. That's unusual for a predator species, I noted. Yes, sir, most predators we know are solitary, territorial, but humans form bonds easily. They adopt animals from other species as companions. They care for their elderly and disabled. They risk their lives to save strangers. A thought about this. So they're dangerous but not cruel, deadly but not evil. I think so, Captain, but the galaxy won't see the difference. They'll only see a species with nuclear weapons. At that moment, new orders came through from the Galactic Council. I read them and felt his heart sink. The Council wanted continuous surveillance. They wanted military assessments, and they were preparing containment protocols. The galaxy had decided that humans were too dangerous to ignore, but they hadn't decided yet whether to make contact or prepare for war. That decision would depend on what humans did next. And Jake, looking at the stars from his command center, had no idea that humanity's future was being debated by species they didn't know existed. He only knew that something was watching them. Something was out there in the dark. He increased patrol schedules. He ordered defensive drills. He made sure Earth's orbital platforms were ready for anything. It was his job to protect humanity. He just didn't know yet what he was protecting them from. General stood in the command center of his flagship, the Iron Fang. Behind him, 2 more warships maintained formation. They had traveled to the edge of human space under cloak. Now they were preparing to reveal themselves. The Council debates while these primitives build weapons, growled. We should establish dominance now before they become a real threat. His tactical officer nodded. Our ships are superior in every way, General. Better shields, stronger weapons, faster engines. A show of force will make them understand their place. Had received authorization for what the Council called reconnaissance in force. He planned to near Earth's moon, display the power of the Empire, force the humans to accept galactic authority. It was simple and effective. Take us in, he ordered. Full intimidation protocols. The 3 warships dropped their cloaking fields as they emerged near Luna. Their massive hulls gleamed in the sunlight. Each ship was twice the size of Earth's largest space station. Weapon ports lined their sides. Energy shields shimmered around them like heat waves. On Lunar Station Alpha, alarms screamed. Commander Jake was reviewing supply reports when every screen in the command center turned red. Multiple contacts, Lisa shouted. 3 massive vessels, unknown design, they just appeared near the moon. Jake rushed to the tactical display. His stomach dropped. The ships were enormous. Nothing Earth had built came close to that size, and their energy readings suggested weapons that could glass entire continents. All stations battle alert, Jake ordered. His voice stayed calm despite his racing heart. Launch all fighters, activate orbital defense platforms, get the president on secure line. Within minutes, humanity's military scrambled to respond. Fighters launched from stations around Earth and Luna. Orbital weapons platforms powered up there and missile batteries. On Earth's surface, nuclear submarines received emergency codes. Pilot Danny Wright strapped into his fighter cockpit. His hands moved through pre-flight checks automatically. He had trained for this moment but never believed it would come. First contact, and it looked like war. All fighters, this is, Jake's voice came through the comm. Maintain defensive formation. Do not fire unless fired upon, but be ready for anything. Danny took his position in the formation. Around him, 50 other fighters did the same. They were tiny compared to those alien warships. But Danny had studied military history. David had beaten Goliath before. Speed and tactics could overcome raw power. General watched the human response with satisfaction. They were scrambling like frightened prey. Perfect. He opened a communication channel using frequencies the drones had recorded. Attention, humans of Earth, his words were translated by the ship's computer. I am General of the Empire. Your species has been discovered by the Galactic Council. You will cease all weapons development. You will cease all space expansion. You will submit to Council authority. Comply or face consequences. In the command center, Jake listened to the ultimatum. Anger burned in his chest. Humanity had fought too hard for freedom to surrender it to aliens who threatened them. Open channel, Jake said. When the light turned green, he spoke clearly. This is Commander Jake of Earth's International Space Command. We mean no harm to any species, but we will not surrender our sovereignty. If you want peace, we offer it freely. If you want war, we'll give you that too. The channel went silent. Then's laughter came through. You dare threaten us? Your primitive weapons cannot harm our ships. Surrender or be destroyed. Then I guess we're done talking, Jake said. He switched to the fleet channel. All units weapons free, show them what Earth is made of. Danny Wright saw the order flash on his screen. His fighters' weapon systems armed instantly. Around him, the other pilots did the same. Time seemed to slow. The ships fired first. Energy beams lanced out toward the human fighters. But Danny was already moving. He threw his fighter into a spin using maximum thrust. The beam missed by meters. Around him, other pilots scattered in unpredictable patterns. They're fast, Danny reported, but their tracking is slow. Use random vectors. The fighters broke formation and attacked like a swarm. Each pilot flew differently. No pattern, no predictability. It was chaos by design. the kind of chaos only humans had practiced for centuries of air combat. Snarled in frustration, "Why can't we hit them, lock onto their heat signatures?" "They're using the debris field for cover, General," his tactical officer reported. "And their movements are too random. Our targeting computers can't predict them." The human fighters dove toward the asteroid belt near Mars. They wove between rocks, using gravity and inertia in ways that made pilots dizzy just watching. Then they turned and fired missiles. "Missiles incoming," the tactical officer warned. "Conventional explosives, our shields will stop them easily." But the missiles didn't hit the shields directly. They exploded near the ships, and the nuclear blasts created electromagnetic pulses that washed over the shields. The energy barriers flickered. "Clever," admitted. "They're trying to overload our shields, but it won't be enough." On Earth, Helen Torres watched the battle feed. An idea struck her. She ran to her lab and activated the experimental FTL drive she had been testing. It was designed to fold space, but if she reversed the polarity, it might create a massive electromagnetic burst. She called Jake directly. "Commander, I can help, but I need to bring my prototype to the battle zone." "What prototype?" Jake asked. "No time to explain. Trust me. Get me on a transport now." Jake made the call. Within minutes, Helen's device was being loaded onto a military shuttle. It launched toward the combat zone with full escort. Danny Wright and his squadron kept hitting the ships. They targeted sensor arrays, weapon ports, engine housings, anywhere that looked vulnerable. The enemy shields were strong, but they weren't perfect. "Focus fire on the lead ship's forward weapons," Jake ordered. "Coordinate your strikes." 20 fighters dove at once. They fired missiles in a precise pattern. The explosions hit the same shield section within a second of each other. The shield flickered, failed. One missile got through and destroyed a weapon platform. Roared in anger, "How are they doing this? They're primitives." "They fight like they don't care about dying," his tactical officer said quietly. "Every pilot is willing to sacrifice themselves. We've never faced that before." Helen's shuttle arrived. She set up her device and activated it. The experimental drive created a massive pulse of energy that spread across the battle zone. It passed through the shields like they weren't there. The Iron Fang systems went dark. Emergency lights flickered on. Shield generators were offline. His weapons were offline. His engines were running on backup power. "Now," Jake ordered, "all platforms full assault on the flagship." Orbital fired, missiles launched. Fighter squadrons emptied their weapons. The Iron Fang, unshielded and vulnerable, took hit after hit. Explosions tore across its hull. Life support failed in 3 sections. The mighty warship was crippled in seconds. "Retreat," commanded. "All ships retreat." The 2 undamaged vessels grabbed the Iron Fang with tractor beams and jumped away. The battle was over in less than an hour. Jake watched them go. His hands were shaking. They had won, but he knew this was just the beginning. "Sir, the alien flagship is leaking atmosphere," Lisa reported. "There are crew members trapped in the damaged sections." Jake didn't hesitate. "Launch rescue operations. Get our people out there to save them." Danny Wright couldn't believe the order. They had just tried to kill each other, but he followed commands. His squadron moved to the debris field and began pulling survivors from wrecked hull sections. Across the galaxy, species watched the battle recordings in stunned silence. The humans had won, not through superior technology, but through tactics, courage, and willingness to risk everything. And now they were saving the enemy soldiers who had attacked them. Fear turned to something else, something the galaxy hadn't felt toward humans before: respect. The Galactic Council chamber was silent as they watched the battle recording for the 3rd time. Representatives from hundreds of species sat in shock. The humans had defeated a battle group. Then they had saved the surviving enemy soldiers. "This changes everything," the council elder said quietly. "We underestimated them." Captain stood before the council. He had been summoned to explain what he knew about humans. "With respect, Elder, we underestimated them because we feared them. We saw predators with weapons. We didn't see who they really were." "And who are they?" a representative demanded. "Survivors," a replied. "But not just survivors. Humans could have left Earth millions of years ago if survival was their only goal. Instead, they stayed. They built civilizations. They created art and music. They developed philosophy and science. They're not just dangerous, they're complex." A military analyst brought up new data. We've been studying human conflict history. They've fought thousands of wars, but we found something interesting. Humans have also fought wars to free slaves, to stop genocides, to protect smaller nations from larger ones. They fight for ideas as much as resources. That's unusual, another representative said. Most species fight for territory or survival. Fighting for abstract concepts suggests deep cultural values. A young student named had been granted permission to address the council. She had spent weeks studying human culture through their broadcasts. Honored Council, I believe I understand humans better than our military analysts. May I speak? The elder nodded. Proceed, young one. Displayed images from human entertainment. Humans tell stories constantly. Every culture has myths and legends, and in almost every story, the hero sacrifices something to help others. They value courage, loyalty, and compassion above personal gain. She pulled up more examples. Look at their approach to other species. Humans adopt animals from other evolutionary lines. They call them pets and treat them as family members. They spend resources to protect endangered species that have no benefit to human survival. They even form emotional bonds with robotic companions. What does this tell us? The elder asked. It tells us humans can care about anything, said. Their empathy extends beyond their own species, beyond living things. If humans care about robots and animals, imagine how they might treat other intelligent species once they understand we mean no harm. The council chamber filled with murmured discussions. This perspective was new. Dangerous could mean many things. A predator was dangerous, but so was a protector defending its family. On Earth, Jake stood in a hospital room. Before him lay a soldier his team had rescued from space. The alien was recovering from injuries. Medical staff had worked around the clock to save him. The eyes opened. He saw Jake and tensed, expecting execution or torture. Instead, Jake pulled up a chair and sat down. "How are you feeling?" Jake asked. A translator device converted his words to language. "Why did you save me?" the soldier asked. "We attacked you." "Because you were in danger," Jake replied simply. "We don't let people die if we can help them, not even enemies." The struggled to understand. "My people would have left you wounded in space. This is not how war works." "Maybe it should be," Jake said. "We didn't want war, we just wanted to be left alone, but your general didn't give us a choice." "You defeated us easily," the soldier said. "Your tactics were superior, your weapons were effective, your pilots were fearless." "We fought to survive," Jake corrected. "That's different from wanting to fight. When you're healed, we'll send you home. Tell your people what happened here. Tell them humans will defend themselves, but tell them we'd rather be friends." The soldier stared at Jake. This was not the bloodthirsty predator he had been warned about. This was something else entirely. At International Space Command, Helen Torres was explaining her FTL breakthrough to a room full of scientists and military officials. "The math works," she said. "We can build a prototype ship within 6 months, a full fleet within 2 years." "That's incredibly fast," an official noted. "It has to be," Helen replied. "The galaxy knows about us now. We need to be able to travel between stars if we're going to survive whatever comes next." Jake entered the room. "The president has approved emergency funding for the FTL program. Dr. Torres, you have whatever resources you need. Make it happen." Helen nodded. "There's one more thing, Commander. I think we should share the technology." The room erupted in protests. Share humanity's greatest achievement. Give potential enemies the ability to travel faster than light. "Hear me out," Helen said loudly. "We just proved humans can fight. Now we need to prove we can cooperate. If we share FTL technology with the galaxy, we show them we're not interested in domination. We're interested in partnership." Jake considered this. It was risky, but it was also brilliant. "I'll take it to the president, but I think you're right. We need to show the galaxy who we really are." Captain received a transmission from Earth. He opened it cautiously, expecting demands or threats. Instead, he found an invitation. "Captain, this is Commander Jake. We know you've been watching us. We want to invite you and any Galactic Council representatives to visit Earth. Come see our world, meet our people. Judge us by our actions, not your fears. We're sending coordinates for a meeting at International Space Station Unity. We hope you'll accept." I read the message 3 times. Humans were inviting potential enemies to their home. It was either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. He forwarded the message to the council. The council debated for hours. The military faction argued it was a trap. The diplomatic faction saw it as an opportunity. The peaceful species saw it as a chance to avoid catastrophic war. Finally, the elder made a decision. Captain will lead a diplomatic mission to Earth. Small delegation only, maximum security protocols, but we will accept their invitation. Assembled his team carefully. He included whose cultural understanding might be valuable. He included security officers and scientists, and he included one representative from the Empire at their request. The representative was not a soldier. She was a scholar named La. She had studied the battle recordings and reached a startling conclusion. Humans fight the way my ancestors did before we became an empire. They fight to protect, not to conquer. We lost that somewhere in our history. Maybe we can learn it again. The delegation's ship approached Earth slowly. They broadcast peaceful intentions on every frequency. Human fighters escorted them to Space Station Unity, but the pilots waved as they passed. It was a small gesture, but it meant everything. Jake waited at the docking port. He wore his formal uniform, but no weapons. When the airlock opened, he stepped forward with his hand extended in the human gesture of greeting. Emerged first. He looked at Jake's hand, understood the meaning from his cultural studies, and extended his own hand. They shook, and the galaxy watched as human and alien made peaceful contact for the first time. "Welcome to Earth," Jake said. "We have a lot to talk about." "Yes," agreed. "I think we do." Stepped forward next. She looked at Jake with wonder. "You're exactly like your stories said you would be, brave and kind at the same time." Jake smiled. "We're just people trying to do the right thing. Come on, I'll show you around. Earth has a lot to offer." As the delegation entered the space station, species across the galaxy held their breath. The next few days would determine humanity's future. Would the aliens see humans as monsters or as potential friends? Jake hoped they would see the truth, that humans were dangerous when threatened but loyal when trusted, that they could be the galaxy's greatest allies if given the chance, and that sometimes the scariest thing in the universe could also be the best thing. Captain floated through Space Station Unity, his eyes taking in everything. Human engineering was different from galactic standards, less elegant perhaps, but incredibly practical. Every space served multiple purposes. Every system had backups. Jake guided the alien delegation through the station. "We built this over 5 years," he explained. "It serves as a research facility, military outpost, and diplomatic center, though we never expected to need that last function until recently." Pressed her face to an observation window. Earth hung below them, blue and white and beautiful. "Your planet is stunning," she said. "I've seen the data, I know how dangerous it is, but all I can see is how alive it looks." "That's because you're looking at it like a scientist, not a soldier," Jake said. "Yes, Earth is harsh, but it's also home. It made us strong, but it also taught us to appreciate life." La, the scholar, studied the humans working on the station. They moved with efficiency, but also paused to help each other. She saw a technician struggling with a heavy panel, and 2 others immediately assisted without being asked. "Your people cooperate naturally," she observed. "My species requires strict hierarchy to function, but humans seem to help each other by instinct." "We learned early that we survive better together," Jake replied. "One human alone on Earth would die quickly, but a group of humans can overcome almost anything." Stopped at a memorial wall. It showed names and photos of humans who had died in space accidents over the years. "You honor your dead," he said quietly. "Always," Jake confirmed. "Every person matters, every loss is remembered. That's part of what makes us human." The delegation spent 2 days touring Earth facilities. They met scientists, soldiers, families, and children. They ate human food, which most found edible if unusual. They listened to human music, which ranged from beautiful to bewildering. They watched humans play sports, work in teams, and debate politics with passionate intensity. On the 3rd day, sent his report to the Galactic Council. "Humans are dangerous," he wrote, "but not in the way we feared. They're dangerous because they care too much. They'll fight to the death to protect their families, their friends, their ideals. But that same protective instinct extends outward. I believe humans would defend any species facing extinction. They're not conquerors, they're guardians." The council received the report with mixed reactions. Some remained skeptical. Others began to hope. But the debate was interrupted by an emergency alert. The collectives was in danger. An asteroid swarm had altered course unexpectedly. 3 massive rocks were on collision trajectory with the planet. Millions of citizens would die if the asteroids weren't stopped. The government called for help. Their own ships lacked the weapons to destroy asteroids that large. Other species offered assistance, but their fleets were too far away. They would never arrive in time. Jake received the news on Space Station Unity. The delegation was still there, preparing for their return to the Council. He made a decision in seconds. I need to speak with your government immediately, Jake said. Minutes later, Jake stood before a holographic display showing the Galactic Council Elder. Elder, we've received the distress call from the Earth wants to help. You would risk your people for a species you just met, the Elder asked. That's what we do, Jake said simply. Tell us where to go, we'll handle it. The Elder studied Jake's face. He saw no hesitation, no calculation of benefit or cost, just determination to help. Very well, Commander, the coordinates are being transmitted now. May fortune favor you. Jake turned to his crew. Get Helen Torres and her FTL prototype. Load every ship we have with missiles and ammunition. Call back every pilot on leave. We're going to save the... Within 2 hours, a human fleet assembled. They had 6 military ships, Helen's experimental vessel, and 24 fighters. It wasn't much compared to galactic navies, but it was what Earth could spare. Danny Wright strapped into his fighter cockpit again. Going to make a habit of saving aliens, he muttered, but he was smiling. This was what humanity did best, help those who needed it. The fleet jumped to FTL using Helen's technology. They emerged in space 4 hours later. The asteroids were visible on long-range sensors, massive chunks of rock and ice hurtling toward the green and blue planet below. Defense Force, this is Commander Jake of Earth. We're here to help. Send us your targeting data. The commander's voice came through, shaking with relief. Earth ships, thank you. We're transmitting coordinates now, but those asteroids are enormous. I don't know if we can stop them. We'll stop them, Jake said with absolute certainty. All ships attack pattern Delta. Fighters, precision strikes on structural weak points. Capital ships focus on the lead asteroid. Let's break these rocks into pieces too small to do damage. The human fleet moved into position. Danny Wright and his squadron dove at the asteroids, scanning for fault lines and weak spots. They fired missiles into cracks, creating controlled explosions that split the rocks into smaller chunks. The capital ships fired there, kinetic weapons accelerated to incredible speeds. Each shot carried the force of a small nuclear bomb. The asteroids began to crack under the sustained bombardment. Helen Torres monitored the situation from her ship. Jake, the second asteroid is too solid. We're not breaking it up fast enough. It'll still hit the planet. Then we move it, Jake replied. All ships concentrate fire on one side of the asteroid. We're going to knock it off course. It was a desperate plan. Using weapons to alter an asteroid's trajectory required perfect timing and coordination. But humans had practiced this kind of precision for centuries in their wars. The fleet fired as one. Missiles and rounds hammered one side of the asteroid. The massive rock slowly, impossibly began to turn. Its course shifted by degrees, then by kilometers. The asteroid would miss the planet by a narrow margin. 2 down, 1 to go, Jake announced. The third asteroid was the largest. Breaking it up would take too long. Moving it seemed impossible. Danny Wright studied the sensor data and saw something interesting. Commander, I have an idea, he transmitted. If we can attach explosive charges to precise points on the asteroid, we might be able to split it along its rotational axis, like cracking an egg. Do it, Jake ordered. All fighters follow Lieutenant Wright's lead. Danny and his squadron flew close to the spinning asteroid. They had to match its rotation perfectly while placing charges. One mistake would smash them against the rock. But human pilots had trained for difficult maneuvers their entire careers. They attached charges one by one, high explosive packages placed with mathematical precision. When the last charge was set, Danny ordered the detonation. The asteroid exploded from within, but not into random fragments. It split into 4 large pieces that tumbled away from each other. Each piece was now small enough for the defense fleet to handle. Target destroyed, Danny reported. The planet is safe. On the millions watched the sky as the threat vanished. They saw human ships darting through space with impossible grace. They saw weapons fired with precision that seemed miraculous. They saw their children's future saved by aliens they had feared just days before. The commander sent a transmission. "Earth fleet, we can never repay this debt. You saved our world, our species. Why?" Jake thought about how to answer. "Because you needed help, that's reason enough." The human fleet remained in space for 2 more days, helping clear debris and assisting with recovery efforts. Humans worked alongside citizens, communicating through translators but connecting through shared relief and joy. A watched it all and sent another report to the council. This one was shorter. "Humans are exactly what the galaxy needs. Approve their membership immediately." 6 weeks later, Jake stood in the Galactic Council chamber. Representatives from hundreds of species watched as the elder spoke. "Commander Jake, on behalf of the Galactic Council, we welcome humanity as full members. You have proven your strength in battle and your compassion in peace. We hope this is the beginning of a long partnership." Jake bowed slightly. "Thank you, Elder, but we have conditions for our membership." The chamber stirred, species making demands, but the Elder gestured for Jake to continue. "First, Earth maintains complete sovereignty. We'll cooperate with the Council, but we govern ourselves. Second, we share our FTL technology freely with any species that wants it. Knowledge should benefit everyone. Third, Earth commits to defending any Council member facing extinction-level threats. We'll be the galaxy's protectors if you'll let us." The Elder considered. These weren't demands for power or resources. They were offers of help. "Your conditions are acceptable. Welcome to the galactic community, humanity." 3 months later, Jake commanded a joint fleet patrolling the frontier regions. Human ships flew alongside science vessels, warships, and explorers. The species that had feared each other now worked together. Danny Wright was training alien pilots in human combat tactics. "The key is unpredictability," he explained to a class of young. "Never do what the enemy expects. Use your environment. Think 3 moves ahead." Helen Torres led a research station where scientists from a dozen species studied faster-than-light travel together. Human understanding of space folding combined with alien knowledge of gravitational manipulation. Together, they were creating technology neither species could have built alone. On Earth, visited schools and spoke to children about the galaxy. Young humans listened with wide eyes as she described alien worlds and different cultures. She told them about the fear the galaxy had felt, about the courage humans had shown, about the friendship that followed. "You taught us something important," told one class. "Being strong isn't the same as being violent. Being dangerous isn't the same as being cruel. Humans are both dangerous and good. That's what makes you special." Captain and Jake stood on an observation deck, watching Earth turn slowly below them. A year had passed since first contact. "My people were terrified of you," admitted. "We saw predators with nuclear weapons. We thought you would conquer us." "And now," Jake asked. "Now we understand. You're dangerous, yes, but you're dangerous in defense of life. You're the protectors the galaxy didn't know it needed. You fight against extinction, against cruelty, against those who prey on the weak." Jake smiled. "We're not perfect. We have our own problems, our own conflicts, but we try to do the right thing. That's all anyone can ask." "It's more than enough," I said. "The galaxy is safer with humans in it. That's something none of us expected to say." They watched the stars together, human and alien, friends despite the fear that had brought them together. Earth had been discovered. The galaxy had watched in terror. But from that fear came understanding. And from understanding came a partnership that would change the galaxy forever. Humanity proved that being from it didn't make you a monster. It made you strong enough to protect those who weren't. The species that evolved to survive anything now used that strength to help everyone survive together. And across the galaxy, on worlds that had evacuated in fear, families returned home knowing that humans stood watch. The predators from Earth had become the galaxy's greatest defenders, not despite their dangerous nature, but because of it.